Hello and welcome to the Divine Intent podcast with me, Raakhee. Today I'm with the very awesome Nat Olson, also known as the Numerology Chick on Instagram and Nat's Numbers. So today we're going to be looking at numbers, but not the boring finance type of numbers, the really exciting, the fun, the philosophical side of numbers. Nat has been coaching clients in her private practice for over a decade. She's helped some of the best-selling authors out there, Wall Street financiers, and CEOs for multi-million-dollar companies. So Nat, a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Raakhee. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's our pleasure to have you. And we are so excited to dig into this world of numerology. And I think kind of starting right off at the top, I've read a little bit about your own journey into numerology. Tell us a little bit about how you entered into this world and why do numbers speak to you?
I always smile because when I was a kid, I was not thinking I'm going to be a numerologist. I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was little, kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
I passed ground school. I was taking flight lessons. But in my early 20s, I had decided to devote myself to the field of nutrition. So I got a degree in nutrition education. I started my own private practice. And then this funny sort of cosmic joke happened. And the cosmic joke was that here I was walking my talk, doing workshops at gyms, eating an immaculate diet. I always tell the story that on New Year's Eve, my friends would be drinking champagne and I would be that like elitist drinking tea, just like sitting in the corner, just like, no, I'm healthy all the time. And then one morning I woke up really ill and I was bedridden probably from the onset of my symptoms for about 6 months. And I could barely walk from one side of my house to the other. And it was really one of those stereotypical spiritual awakenings, because basically at that point in my life, I thought I could solve all of my problems. I would be loved, I would be successful, I would kick butt in the world if my body was just in a particular physical state and if I did all the right things in the physical world. And so I went to a bunch of specialists. They knew something was wrong. I had the white blood cell count of a chemo patient. But they basically said, Nat, you're going to probably have this for the rest of your life and you're just going to have to adjust. And I'll never forget it. I went home and I was just resigned that this was it. And I opened up this old box of books that I had stored away from when I was a teenager. And on the top, do I have it here? It's right here, actually.
Oh, wow.
On the top was this book by Matthew Goodwin on numerology. And he was a fascinating dude because he was an MIT graduate, a really super smart, logical guy. But he found that this ancient tradition of numerology could explain with uncanny accuracy human behavior and personality and purpose and the key factors for a person being authentic and successful in their lives. So I opened this up just for fun because I was so depressed. and I did my numbers. And in that, like 10 minutes, I learned more about why I was sick than I had learned in the 6 months of trying to figure out, physically what was going wrong. I learned that I had been doing things in my life that were actually counter to how I was designed by my creator. And I started to actually not just learn about myself, because that's where a lot of us can get stuck. It's like, ooh, that was fun, and then we move on with our life. I was so desperate that I started to actually apply the numbers from my chart into my day-to-day life. And I healed so fast in such a miraculous way that I couldn't ignore it. And I really wanted to ignore it because I did not want to go to dinner parties and say, I'm a numerologist. I really didn't. I come from a more traditional Italian family. And when I told my dad I was abandoning my nutrition career to become a hippy dippy trippy numerologist, oh my God, he just about died. But then I started to do the numbers of my friends, my family, and then even some open-minded clients who were struggling with with their body, with eating disorder behavior. And I found that I could get people more clarity and more results in one session about what was really going on in their lives than I was getting in working with somebody in nutrition for months and months with menu plans and things like that. So I realized, wow, there is a spiritual aspect of who we are that animates our physical body, and that animates all of the other areas of our life: career, finance, love. And if we get in touch with how we were designed and we work with it versus against it, we suddenly feel that ease and that grace.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, I think weaving in this, and understanding that you healed through numbers, kind of really, I think, touches on that. How do numbers speak to you? And I think that's such a powerful story. And I don't think what people often hear when it comes to something like the practice of numerology. So I think that's a really powerful way to understand what it can do for you. And I know numerology it's ancient, right? It's ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Where does it come from?
Yeah.
How did ancient societies use it?
Oh, Raakhee, I love that question. So there's different figures. So some say it's 2,500 years old. I actually believe it's more like 10,000 years old. And I actually think that it's timeless. And here's why. So numbers are the fingerprints of God. Okay. Numbers are the fingerprints of a divine intelligence behind existence. So even before humans existed, you could go to this trips me out. I think about this a lot. You could go to a distant galaxy, right? You can go into another solar system and the number one will still be the number one. The number two will still be the number two. What I mean by that is the number one is a single individual thing. Anywhere that you go in the universe, the circle, the number one, an enclosed container, is anywhere and everywhere. It has to exist for life to exist. The number two things coming together, being pulled apart, it's what holds our very atoms together. It's what makes it so that we can live this life, right? It's what attracts you to somebody across the room. It's the three is two things coming together that creates a third thing, right? So numerology in its true foundational core is just talking about the actual nature of existence. Now, numerology in the way that we know it today, where we actually are decoding a person's own numbers, their own spiritual DNA, is something that's said to have come from Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician 2,500 years ago. He was like a super crazy dude. He was like a new agey like guru in Greece, basically. And he studied numbers and he studied sacred geometry. He actually is one of the people that it's been said he invented the Pythagorean theorem, but it was actually people from India that did, but he made it famous. So, and he began to see that numbers weren't just quantities, as you said in the intro. Numbers are actually these fundamental forces or archetypes that are within the universe and within every single one of us. So what we do is we take your birth name and your birth date, which we do not believe are accidents, and we take these and with different calculation methods, we pull out the numbers that are derived from these two aspects of you to create your unique chart, which includes your life path number, which is your purpose, your expression number, which are your greatest gifts, your heart's desire, which is your deepest need, and your personality number, which is like your attraction factor. And it's so transformative because in a world where we're all different, there is a massive deficiency in knowing ourselves and being ourselves. And man, I'm so passionate about it because I think that a lot of us as women, especially, we struggle with allowing ourselves to take the time and the energy to discover who we really are, what makes us awesome, what makes us valuable, and to basically have a direct line to the divine, to the creator, to say, all right, how did you design me? What are the things that make me irresistible and valuable and amazing? I mean, it's such an incredible, incredible gift to have.
Yeah, I love that. And what did you say? There's a difference between sort of knowing who you are and being who you are. Was that, you said something so powerful there?
I could talk for 15 hours about that.
Yeah.
Yes. And the reason I say that is because that's who I used to be. So when I was a younger girl, so the reason I bought this book when I was like 16 was because I was a professional, like have fun learning about myself, like looking at the horoscopes in the back of 17 magazine, or knowing what my Enneagram number is, knowing what my Myers-Briggs thing is, knowing what my astrology is. But the thing that distinguishes those who are truly confident and successful and capable, powerful women from those who just aren't in that place yet is the application. So it's one thing to just know ourselves, but it's another to be able to say to our parents or to our spouse or to our boss, to be able to say, actually, that's not what I can provide. Actually, this is my genius. This is what I am able to give. Those practical applications of this spiritual knowledge are so deficient. And it's why I make a living as a coach, because we can know ourselves and have fun with that. But the courage and the bravery and the accountability to go out in the fray of life and advocate for ourselves, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, that totally resonates. It's, even for me personally, but so many women in my life, I know that's a struggle. It's, we talk so much about authenticity and being your authentic self, but it's not the easiest thing to own that and show up in the world that we live in. It really isn't. And I think it's fascinating that numbers can give you the permission almost to say, it's okay to be that. It's okay to be this way in the world. And you touched on, and there's so much to dig in here. I know we're not going to not going to get anywhere close to all of it today, but I think if people can kind of really start to understand, as I think hopefully they are through this discussion, what numerology is really about, right? And what it can provide. And you spoke about a lot of things there, right? Your soul's urge, the life path, all of those things. Could we dig into one of those with sort of an exploration of what application does mean? And what it can do for somebody to know that number, how they embody it, and how that can be life-changing.
Oh, okay. So let's start with the life path number, because in numerology, the life path number is considered the most powerful. If you were going to just focus on one number, especially in regards to career, this is the number to focus on. Our life path number, it's derived from our birth date. And so what you do is you take your birth date, like I'm September 5th, 1983. So you take that and you add it down until you get a final digit. And I have a whole YouTube video on how to do this, and there's free numerology calculators. So I don't want to waste time going into that. So if people are listening to this, they can just like pause and go and do it. But our life path number is not so much who we are. It's who we're asked to become. It's like our great mission and our great purpose in this lifetime. And if we know this purpose, it's like we become the heroine of our lives. It's like we're stepping on that yellow brick road and we feel guided and we feel flow and we feel inspiration, because we're in essence aligning with the reason that we're here. Okay. And just as a side note, what oftentimes happens with all of the numbers in our chart, but definitely with the life path number, is if we've gone through our life and we've looked at other people that we admire, like girlfriends, teachers, parents even, we might try to model ourselves after them to achieve success. So you might even have a girlfriend that's just like vivacious and extroverted, and she's just like, and you're like, oh God, she's doing great. But you try to do that. You try to walk that path and you just get hit. It feels inauthentic. It feels like trudging through mud. Oftentimes it's because you're not honoring the way you were designed. Our numbers are describing who we are and how we were uniquely designed to be successful. So I'll give you an example for me as an 8 life path. Okay. So I told you I was like bedridden. I was suffering from this, what they thought was like an incurable illness, found out I was an 8 life path. And my mission and my purpose as an 8 life path is to be a manifester, as a CEO, businesswoman, or authority of my own life. And when I read this at first, my first reaction was,
Yeah.
redo the calculation, like I was like, no. But then I got goosebumps and chills all over. And this is I'm really cheesy sometimes. I might almost cry. Because I realized, looking back over the course of my life, that when I was in certain jobs, certain positions, certain scenarios, I would always have the desire and the urge and the instinct to be the leader. I didn't want to, but I would always find myself in that position of like being the one that just has to freaking figure it out. Let's do this, right? To be the provider, to be the one that figures it out. I even remembered at that time I was working. I had my private practice, but then I had a side job working in sales, and I still remember my boss at the time said that he hired me. He had all these different people come and work at this like sales event. It was like outside booths. And he was watching us to see who would perform the best. And we were putting up a tent, right? Like, one of those like big outdoor tents. And he said he knew that he wanted to hire me because the 8 life path is the go-getter, the organizer, all right, guys, let's figure out how we're going to do this. And you're an 8 life path.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyway, so I would do that. I would get into that mode. Okay. Because our life path is that we're put into positions over and over again in life where we're asked to show up that way. Doesn't mean it's comfortable. Doesn't mean that we even identify with it. But over and over again, we are put in positions where our leadership, our authority is necessary for the progress of the whole of the group. So anyway, so I was like, all right, guys, let's put this tent together. We put it together and he hired me. So as I'm reading this, at first I'm like, no, I'm not an 8. I'm not a CEO. I'm not an authority. It's little old me. In fact, the pain of the 8 life path is that so much of the time they can see everyone else's power, everyone else's leadership. They think everyone else is phenomenally capable, but we have a hard time seeing that in ourselves. And then I started going back over the course of my life and going, wow, I was designed this way. I'm the last one to see it. I'm not owning this mission. I'm not owning this power. And as cheesy as it sounds, and it's just like a really cheesy metaphor, but I'm kind of a nerd. In Harry Potter,
Yeah.
You've read the books or seen the movies?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm such a nerd about it. It's our life path. Discovering what our life path number is like that moment when Harry Potter gets all the invitations from the wizard world, the wizard school. He was in this muggle world and he knew there was something different about him. But he just wasn't yet conscious of it. There was these unusual things that happened. There was these unusual, like sort of this unique magic that he had. But it wasn't until somebody said, look, you're a wizard. Like you've been a wizard this whole time. Do you remember like X, Y, and Z, that you wake up. So I woke up to that 8 life path, that my mission is to take back my power. Instead of giving away my power, that's the thematic for 8s. Instead of being a victim, feeling powerless, or giving away my power to another authority figure, it's time for me to take that back and to see myself as the CEO. And at this time in my life, I was sort of under the thumb of like 3 to 4 authority figures. I'm not even kidding. People telling me I was never going to make it on my own. People that would try to diminish my power, etc. So that's an example of the 8 life path. And there are actually 12 different life paths. There's 1 through 9, and then 11, 22, and 33. So you could be any one of those 12 different life paths and have one of these missions. But when you know it, you look back on your life and you go, oh my gosh, the universe, my creator, has been putting me over and over again in that space to learn this lesson so that I can step into my great work and play my beautiful part in this world.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, yeah, I'm playing this all out for myself because, like you said, I'm in a path as well. So I can totally resonate with everything you're saying. And I think the truth is I'm still discovering and learning so much of this stuff. When you said, and I'm like, yeah, wow, I'm figuring that out now. I'm seeing that now. I'm learning that now.
Yes.
And I think it's so funny. I think if you had to also look and interpret, what these numbers mean on your own, I think you see differently. I think, I played with numerology kind of similar to what you were saying in trying to know myself maybe a few years ago, astrology and the same thing. But
Yes.
I interpreted the 8 so differently in this very externalized success.
Yeah. Physical things and
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, and I didn't even understand, what sort of driving power from within even means. I'm still learning that. I mean, I'm still growing into, I guess, my womanhood,
Yes.
because I think there's something around feminine power, right, within that, and like you mentioned earlier, and it's so interesting, and I think that's the beauty of hearing and really learning from what you're teaching, and even the video that you did on the 8, and I think you spoke about the Alibaba story. That was
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes. Oh,
It was
good. That was so
brilliant.
long ago. I can't even remember
Yeah,
what I said.
it was a long time ago, but it was the first time where I was like, oh, it's a lot more, there's a lot more depth to this
Yes.
than kind of, okay, here's my life path and I fall into a category. There's so much more depth to this. So I love that. And I will link, your videos, the numerology calculator, all of that to the description so people can use that while they listening to this interview. But yeah, gosh, yeah, so much to
There's,
unpack there.
mhm.
But I think kind of, going kind of pulling back out and a little bit higher. Um, how would you recommend? What would you say to somebody who's exploring themselves and their lives? How do you use your personal numerology in your life? How do you use it throughout your lifetime?
Well, so there's the obvious answer to that question, which is to first know what your numbers are, right? So,
Yeah.
so you'll provide that free numerology calculator. But once you realize what that spiritual DNA is, it's actually doing the transformational work to dive in to understanding your inner nature and then to actually honor it, right? Each number in our chart, it has its own special message or gift. So I've talked about the life path number, but I'll tell you about this other number that changed my life. It was like a second awakening. The first one was healing my body. But the second number in my chart, oh my gosh, it enabled me to have a second chance at love and at life. I was married for 13 years and went through a painful separation and divorce. I'm so grateful because we had this beautiful, beautiful, exotic goddess of a daughter who's now 18. But her name is Maria, and she is just like one of the greatest gifts of my life. So I learned a lot from that experience. But one of the other things that I learned was how important it is to honor ourselves and to honor our deepest needs in career and in relationship. And there's a number in our chart called our heart's desire or soul's urge number. And this is actually derived from the vowels of our birth name. And mine is the number 2. So it means that my deepest need that's often repressed and diminished. Okay, this is like a private thing that we hold precious to ourselves. My deepest need to truly feel fulfilled and satisfied in life is the number 2, which is all about deep partnership. And I had learned not only in my family unit, I grew up with these really independent parents. and independent and driven, but it was kind of like growing up with just a bunch of strangers. And here I was, this child that just wanted deep companionship and, just wanted a best friend. And I still remember like taking my pillow and putting it like parallel to me and pretending that he was my soulmate. Like, 7 years old. It was weird. Like, it was really weird. But it was like, but when I look at my true heart's desire, I had this healing where I was like, oh my gosh, I was born this way, and the other people in my life are lovely people, but it was harder for them to understand that this was a deep fundamental need that I had, and they didn't have that same thing in their makeup. So anyway, okay, so fast forward to the separation and divorce. I had learned throughout my life in previous relationships and in my family unit that deep need was wrong. So if I wanted deep companionship, if I wanted to truly be seen on an intimate and deep level, if I wanted a best friend in life, it made me codependent. It made me clingy. It made me extra. Okay. So when I was diving back into the dating world, I sat with my chart and I talked to my cosmic best friend, the beautiful big universe. And I really sat with this number. And I was like, okay, this is a number that I need to be happy, to be fulfilled. How can I honor this? And so I wrote it down. Like, I wrote down what are the things that I need from my partner in a partnership to really feel that I am getting this need for deep partnership, deep commitment, deep intimacy met. And so I wrote those things down. And I was able to manifest, meet my husband, who is like perfectly designed for my actual inner nature. I met somebody that had that value. I met somebody that wasn't triggered by my heart's desire, didn't have wounding around my heart's desire, but actually was like, are you for real? Like, I've been looking for somebody like you. Like, really? This is how you are, Natalie? And it was like, if I could give a gift to your audience, it would be, that's what I want all of us to experience, is the things that we actually might hide about ourselves, our deepest desires, our gifts, the things that maybe we think are weird about us or not okay about us, that when we learn about them, right, presence them, and then honor them in real life, in the dating world, in career, in all of our relationships, like, that's when we start to feel that sense of true synergy and happiness in our lives. And that's when we can actually attract the people and the situations that we've been yearning for. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it really does, because I think, just highlighting, I mean, I was thinking of so many friends when you were talking about that situation, because, society and trends dictate a certain way of dating, of loving, of being. And certainly in the world right now, wanting deep connection or saying that you want that with somebody is not the way you were told to show up. It's literally the opposite of the advice people are given. Mm-hmm. And yet we are all not one and the same. And I think that really highlights why it's so important to know your numbers, to know that unique, DNA that you speak of, right? Your spiritual yes. DNA, in how you apply that to your life. And I literally thought of 2 or 3 women who came immediately to mind as you were saying that. And I was like, oh my God, because they are yearning for something like that, but you're playing this game that apparently you think you have to, because these are the rules of the world. So it totally, you totally, that totally means it.
I roll my eyes because it's a deep passion of mine to, I think there's a lot of us out there that have accumulated evidence that being who we are, wanting what we want is wrong. Like that, like you said, that if you want to attract an amazing mate or an amazing partner, you're just going to be like elusive and mysterious and like all of that. And my experience has actually been, the more that we can be honest about who we are and what we need and want to be healthy, right? Like, what do I need to be healthy? What do I need to be the best girlfriend, the best wife, the best business partner? When we're honest about our inner design, people come out of the woodworks. Like, okay, I'll tell you one more little story because this is such a magical story. Can I tell you really quick? Because it doesn't just apply to love. This applies to everything, but it is a love story.
Yeah.
So I got really clear about what it was that I wanted in a partner. Okay, after sort of having this epic failure in my first marriage, and it wasn't pretty. Like, I did it crying in the bathtub with my girlfriend on the phone, you know, and I'm like, what? But I don't think it's possible. And she's just like, write it down. And so I wrote it down. And so I wrote down these like top 3 to 4 qualities that I wanted and needed, to your point, right? Even though I was in the dating world and it seemed as though these were things that didn't exist. Okay. Yeah. Actually, one of the first guys that I dated that I was like, oh, there's potential here. Yeah. On our 3rd date, I realized that the first value that was on my list, he's like, nope, not into that. Which I'll tell you about in a second. But, and it was so heart-wrenching because I thought, oh my gosh, there must be something wrong with me, or what I want is totally unrealistic. So I wrote this stuff down, and I luckily had an amazing network of girlfriends who were like, kick this guy to the curb, get him out of your life, right? And so I just said, you're lovely, but we don't share the same values. So I kept dating, and I started dating this guy. And I think we were a month dating, and I decided to invite him to my friend's wedding. So we go to the wedding, and it is a hippie wedding. Okay. And this guy is a cowboy. Like, I was like, I don't know how he's going to fare at this place. And one of the things that they asked us to do when we got there was to take these river rocks and write down a gift that we would want to give the bride and groom so that they would have a successful marriage. Right. And so I write my thing down. He writes his down. The ceremony goes on. And at the end, we're asked to get in a single file line so that we will speak this gift to the room, put it at the foot of the bride and groom. And I'm like, this guy is going to run out of here. Like, this is a hippie wedding in Ashland, Oregon. He's not here for it. But to my surprise, he got up, he got in line, and he got to the front of the line, and he looked my friend, Ben, right in the eyes. And he said, I give you the gift of honor. And he put that stone right at their feet and walked away. And I swear, when he said that word, honor, it just reverberated through the whole room. And I almost started crying and going to my knees, because the first item on my list was honor. It was the first item on my list, was wanting to be with somebody that was true to their word, somebody that was true to what they said, somebody that wanted to really, protect and provide cherish me. And that was the 2. I had done a lot of work on this number 2. I had done a lot of work on what are the things that I need to have that deep, deep best friend intimacy. And that man became my husband. And I'm sharing this story because I could have gone off track. I could have stayed with that first guy and tried to prove myself to him, because he did not want a committed relationship. He was not, anyway, it's a long story. I later learned like all of this other stuff. But it was an incredible, incredible moment where I realized that the divine does design us to be a certain way, to have certain needs, and that the problem is that we do not honor and advocate for them. We don't believe that what we want is possible. And I'll say one last thing. After that day, suddenly I started to meet people, like they came out of the bushes. I don't even know where they came from because I was living in the same city. But I started meeting couples who had been together for 30 years, men and women who were like deeply, deeply devoted to my values, being family oriented, honorable, dedicated, wanted deep intimacy. And by the way, there are certain numbers in numerology where like those aren't the primary values, right? My daughter is so funny. She's a 5 life path, which they're known as the adventurers, the freedom seekers. She's like, of course you want somebody that has integrity and somebody that's, but she does not want a best friend. She wants space.
Yeah.
She wants space. She's like, we can hang out and have special time, but then, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do my own thing, and that's just, so we all have our own unique design. And the more that we can get clear on it and then openly communicate that, the more that we are going to attract the people, situations, and circumstances that we need to heal from whatever has happened and to create the life that we really want.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's such an amazing story. It really, really is. And I'm literally going to send this to specific women who I know are struggling, because I think this is really going to resonate and maybe make a difference in how they think about, attracting the right life partner. So we touched on purpose. We've touched on love. I know we're getting close up in time. But another big topic that I just want to touch on briefly is this whole concept of manifesting. Because I know a lot of people are going to come to numerology with that intent, right? Just with everything around manifestation being such a big thing now. I mean, I didn't even know it was such a big thing. You kind of go to YouTube and it's like, okay, Yeah, how does numerology work with this concept of manifesting?
Well, and so when you say manifesting, I think I know what you mean, but let me just clarify. So you mean basically leveraging our ability to create the things that we want. Yeah.
And often for a lot of people, we see the material side of it. That's just the reality. So it is that job, that it can be that person, that car, that house.
Yes. No, good. Okay, so I think that there's actually two answers to this question. So here's the first one. I've been coaching, I've had a private numerology practice for about a decade now. And I've noticed this magical key to manifestation, meaning being able to manifest incredible progress, financial breakthroughs, dream careers, dream jobs. And the component that seems to create that, as cliche as it sounds, is practicing the art of being yourself. This is key because I've had lovely clients who would come to me and they would say, I want to manifest, making $50,000 a month, or I want to manifest a partner that's like this, right? And then they would get the thing and they would really be suffering and struggling, because you can get something in the physical world, but if you got it by not being yourself, it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be sustainable. It's not actually the thing that you thought you wanted, right? And so, like, for instance, in career or with money, which is a big one for a lot of people, let's say you have a certain number figure in your mind of what you want to make a month to feel like an empowered woman, and that you could buy fancy clothes. And I'm all here for that. Like, I love that. Like, I'm not anti-materialist at all. I think that those are really cool things. But what I do with my clients is I say, listen, you will always be supported when you are living your mission and you're expressing your true gifts and you're honoring your deeper needs. When you do that, you are irresistible. You are magnetic. You are so attractive, and you manifest incredible relationships, like the story that I just told you that you didn't even think existed, like you didn't think they existed. But you manifest incredible careers and incredible opportunities by being yourself. So although that's an unconventional answer, it's actually the one that I've observed is true, and is actually something that my clients have taught me as I've watched them dive deep into spiritual maturity, right? Of getting the stuff that they said they wanted and going, oh, actually, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to make $50,000 a month. I wanted to make $50,000 a month doing what I love, being who I naturally am, so that I can just do it in my sleep, right? Like, that's what they wanted. Yeah. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece, which would be going down a rabbit hole, but I'll just throw it in there just like as a little sparkle, is in numerology. I do a lot of work on the zero. So this, you can see that it's like my favorite number. The zero is the source of existence. It's God. And quantum physics proves that the 0 point field exists. It's like the fabric of all existence. And we've also seen that the 0 point field responds to us. And so I do a lot of work with my clients on how to rehabilitate their relationship with the divine. Because a lot of people struggle with this. That's a topic for another time. But there's a lot of people that have shut down their connection to that bigger and greater energy because of religious dogma, or because even of the spiritual New Age community of confronting misuse of power or corruption of different sorts. So to manifest, it really helps to have a relationship with that energy that's bigger and greater than you, and to also know your part, to know the part that you play and what you're responsible for in the creation process. So that number one, you're responsible for being yourself and honoring the way you were designed. And number two, it's really important to have to customize your own relationship to that bigger and greater energy so that you can receive sort of insights and inspirations that are beyond you.
I love it. Thank you. And yeah, such a succinct, I think a great way for us to rethink how we even talk about manifestation. So thank you so much. I know we pretty much right up on time, but I mean, wow, that was amazing. I mean, you packed so much wisdom in there. So I'm excited to share this with a lot of people in my life, because I think it's really going to help them out a lot. So thank you so much, Nat. And I think kind of in closing, I had one or two questions, and I think one of them just being, considering everything we've already shared today, is there anything else you want to share about numerology that the audience could take as a takeaway?
Ooh, I think the thing I feel called to share is that if you're sitting there listening or watching, and you think that there might be something wrong with you because you're too intense, too dramatic, too deep, too silly, too practical, I implore upon you to research your numbers so that you realize that the things that you thought made you weird or unacceptable are precisely the things that are going to make you successful. They're the things that are amazing about you. That's the thing that is like getting down to the core root of my work. That would be the core root of my work. There's nothing wrong with you. And you just need to receive a reminder about what makes you awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think a much needed message. And then last question before we wrap up, this is a really quick one. It's a quick round. I'm going to say these numbers, and just what's the one word that comes up for you when I say
okay, let's do it.
A few numbers.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So 1.
Independence, paving your own path.
Okay. 7.
Depth, the deeper meaning behind existence.
11.
Spiritual leadership.
9.
Humanitarianism.
Okay, awesome. 5.
Change.
And 2.
Partnership.
Awesome. Nat, thank you so much. This was really incredible. I will link all the details, how everybody can connect with you, your numerology calculator, all of that. So I think people are going to really dig into everything you've shared here today. But
thank you
so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate it. To everybody who's watching, like, subscribe, and I will catch you on our next episode next week. But thank you for being here, and bye for now.